In the US, 74 people earn the same as the bottom 19 million, thanks to which their society makes no sense, and royalty too bears this same economic mark of Cain. It makes claims on society through its irrelevant wealth. The royals run a wonderland caucus race where the ignoble get prizes, such as a knighthood, for example, for Norman Schwarzkopf, the US general who said Iraq's dead weren't worth counting, and another knighthood for Kissinger, a criminal who swaggeringly proclaimed power was an aphrodisiac after he'd carpet-bombed Cambodia. Why should we flagellate ourselves, the dissembling Sir Henry likes to ask, for what the Cambodians did to each other? I want every Iraqi soldier bleeding from every orifice, General Schwarzkopf would sadistically announce, after which the Queen gave this ghoul her greatest honour, following his genocidal bloodletting in US wars. Other pillars of the American state join in the queue for rewards, royalty-mongering spectres of the US machine. Caspar Weinberger of the Iran-Contra drugs for arms affair, and Brent Scowcroft, Kissinger's gopher, and now Knights of the British Empire. For services to law enforcement, J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, who had half of the Black Panther Party murdered, and who phone-tapped Martin Luther King for 10 years, is pleased to find himself similarly ennobled. As is Alan Greenspan, the financier who endorsed toxic derivatives to create a housing bubble, making the rich even richer. An economic war criminal who fetishized market forces. Sir Alan Greenspan's now a knight of the British Empire. The fact that each US president's record, without exception, would earn them seats in the dock at Nuremberg or at the International Criminal Court on genocide charges doesn't prevent the royal family from honouring them. For by an ironic twist, each president morphs into George III, against whom their forebears fought. They declare wars on a whim, they're tyrannical plutocrats, and they imprison their own people without trial.
Too many ideas. Not like you, Mr. Pitt, you don't have ideas. Well, you have one very big idea, balancing the books. And a very good idea it is to have, too. What? The best. And one with which I absolutely agree. As I agree with you, Mr. Pitt, on everything. Apart from the place we mustn't mention. The colonies.
They're now called the United States, sir.
Are they? Goodness me. The United States. Well, I haven't mentioned them. I prefer not to, whatever they're called.
But the US has been infatuated with a monarchist mindset from the US Republic's very earliest days. A crawling John Adams proposed they give their first president the fatuous title of His Exalted High Mightiness. So 2 presidents are made knights of the Queen's crooked table, George H.W. Bush Sr. and Ronald Reagan, both guilty of war crimes in Nicaragua and El Salvador, and misguidedly bombing Iraq and then Libya. Next comes Colin Powell, who presented some talcum powder to the UN, claiming it was anthrax and thus a pretext for war. Now Sir Colin is a knight, the man who covered up the My Lai massacre, the man who torched Vietnamese villages with his Zippo lighter. We burned down the thatched huts, Powell confessed, starting the blaze with Ronson and Zippo lighters. Why were we torching houses and destroying crops? Ho Chi Minh had said his people were like the sea, in which gorillas swam. We try to solve the problem by making the whole sea uninhabitable. In the hard logic of war, what difference did it make if you shot your enemy or starved him to death? Sir Colin Powell, supervisor of turkey shoots as Iraqi soldiers tried to retreat from Basra and were fried, betrayed Dr. King's nonviolence, preferring the craven acceptance of a bauble from Great Britain's Queen. Another royal investiture was held for the US General Tommy Franks, who oversaw the looting of hospitals in Baghdad, and whose forces thought it fun to fire on Iraqi ambulances. Sir Tommy now joins these sorry knights of a twisted table. Where Kissinger is a knight commander of the most distinguished order of St. Michael and of St. George, though Sir Henry is neither angelic, nor has he killed any dragons, but he has only napalmed peasant farmers in fields. And should anyone be inclined to study Kissinger's nobility any further, he is so inured to genocide that he once advised Nixon, if they put Jews into gas chambers in the Soviet Union, it is not an American concern. Yet they're singled out by the monarch for aggrandizement, these characters who've remained unchanged since the time of the Roman historian Tacitus, who said, "They plunder, they slaughter, and they steal." This they falsely name empire, Tacitus wrote on Rome's expansionist wars, adding, "And where they make a wasteland, they call it peace." His verdict is just as applicable to creatures from the same swamp millennia later. George V would even make knighthoods dictator-friendly, by his bestowing one on Italy's Mussolini. Then Bomber Harris, Dresden's terror bomber, would receive the same honor, a serial war criminal by his own admission. Shimon Peres, the ethnic cleanser of Palestine's West Bank, who installed nuclear weapons at Dimona and who ordered the Qana massacre of children in Lebanon, Sir Shimon is made another Knight of St. George. But when monarchs give out their decorations to unashamed murderers, to whom no crime against humanity is too gross, a child might ask, as one did at a similar ceremony, "Mummy, what are those people for?"
Beauty I'd always missed with these eyes before. Just what the truth is, I can't say.